You're listening to Not So Live from Asteroid G. I'm Mike Finkelstein. With me, as always, is...
Pay for subscription.
Is that your middle name, or is that that your married name?
It's my married name.
Josh paid for subscription.
I don't know why they changed it to that, but they did.
This week we are going to be talking about Netflix and all of its many forms, and we need to start, of course, with nerd news on that front, as Netflix has not exactly had the best news as of late.
No.
So let's look at this from the perspective of the corporate world, which is fucking stupid.
Mm-hmm.
It's incredibly stupid. And Netflix has the largest subscriber base of any of the streaming services around.
Well, they did. Do they still?
They still do.
Okay.
They still do. Like, Disney has packed on a lot, and they have a much higher subscriber growth. Well, okay, everyone has much higher subscriber growth right now than Netflix, because Netflix is losing. But Netflix still, I think, is like double their subscriber base, even still. But corporate America only cares about growth. You always have to produce more profit, more whatever.
For their shareholders.
That's all they care about. They don't care about whether or not a business is doing well. They only care about if the business was doing better than it did the previous quarter.
Yes.
Which is fucking stupid.
Yes.
We didn't lose money, but because we didn't make this much X money we were projected to, we did something bad. Like, you stayed in the black. What the fuck's the problem?
Yeah. Well, and plus, for those of you who don't know, spoiler alert, Netflix decided because they were losing money, they were going to force cancel people's subscriptions who were caught sharing their passwords or adding and increasing their monthly subscription, right?
Yeah, they're raising subscriptions by at least $1 because I have the 4-person UHD subscription that I pay for, which is like $20 now.
Yeah,
which is not worth it.
No.
I'm spending a Blu-ray a month to do it, and I'm like, for what I watch on Netflix, I'd rather just go buy the fucking Blu-ray at this point. And the only reason I've been keeping it around is because I've been sharing it with family members. Like, you give me 4 accounts, I'm going to share it with 4 people. And if you're like, well, you're not allowed to do that because it's not inside your household, I'm like, then why the fuck am I paying for this?
Yeah. Well, and then also they're talking about having ads with the paid subscription as well?
They're going to do a low tier like Hulu and Disney have been talking. Well, Hulu does, and Disney has been talking about, and Paramount Plus already does, which is do like, let's say, a $6 subscription instead of the $9 and do ads along with it, which is also obnoxious.
It's obnoxious, but that at least makes sense profitability-wise because they make money off of that.
It does. Well, so Netflix has this issue. I mean, they've never been a very smart business, I think is the problem. They've always been borrowing money to produce more, and even when they've been making a ton of money, they borrow more to produce more because they understood at a certain level people were coming for the content.
Yes.
The problem is Netflix has a weird way of deciding what content is worth keeping, and they never really foster fan bases.
Yeah.
So
they lucked into Stranger Things, I think.
They did. But every show that they put on, unless it suddenly becomes a massive million seller, then they axe it within a season.
Yeah, and even when it does, they still axe it like Glow. I'm still mad at that.
Yeah.
And after Glow, I can't commit.
Yeah.
I have commitment issues with Netflix because every time I'm like, oh, that looks neat.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, well, I'll probably kill it in a season. And then they do. And I'm like, well, not watching that now.
Yeah. Like, the only things that I really pay attention to Netflix at this point for are Stranger Things and The Witcher.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I don't need to pay for a $20 a month subscription for Netflix when that's it. Because you can't trust that you can't trust that they're going to keep their price anywhere near where it should be. You can't trust that they're going to keep anything around, and then they might just get rid of the other benefit of having an account with multiple accounts on it.
Because I share my account personally with somebody else. I mean, it's not mine at all. But I think one of the things that I think younger Gen X people and millennials specifically have been doing, and Gen Z, I'll throw you guys in there too, because I think some of them are in their 20s now. Yeah, they are. They're getting there.
But
I trade my HBO subscription for someone's Netflix, or I'll trade my HBO login for a Hulu account or whatever. Yeah. So
you bounce back and forth.
We bounce back and forth.
Well, it's the problem of the streaming services, like when Netflix first came along, and then Hulu to a certain extent. The promise was you only need like 2 or 3 of these, and then you don't need cable anymore. Yeah. And I mean, between like Hulu having all the broadcast networks putting their shows on there within like 3 days, and Netflix having quote unquote everything else. I mean, you didn't get CBS because CBS never joined up, but it was like, I can do with not having one broadcast network, and then I get everything else that's coming out ever. It was great. AMC was in there. All the pay movie places were dumping their shows in there eventually. It was fine. Now we have, like 20 subscription services, and you have to pay for each one separately. There's no bundling them all together. It feels like cable again.
Like, there's a website that I like to use called Decider.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've heard of it or not, but it's like, okay, I want to watch this movie. Let's see what it's streaming on. And it used to be it was either on Netflix, Hulu, or Amazon Prime. Yeah. But now there's stuff that comes up, and I'm like, what is that? I've never even heard of this.
Shudder.
Yeah. So what? Flickers?
Yeah.
Like, what is this?
No, I will tell you what I mostly do is I have 2 or 3 that I pay for. I ditch the rest unless someone wants to share it with me. And then the rest of the time, I'm just going to Tubi because it's free.
Yeah.
And they don't always have good shit, but they have shit that I haven't seen before. And at that point, that's all I care about.
Yeah.
Oh, they have the sequel to Carrie 2, The Rage. No one wants to watch that. It was free on Tubi. And secret, their ad blocks, their prevention of ad blocking doesn't work very well with all the ad blockers. So I don't watch their ads. I just let it load, and then suddenly I got a free movie that's streaming right from them.
Yeah. But I just feel bamboozled.
Yeah, no, that's a big problem with that. And then Netflix, being the brilliant company that they are, after having all of this happen, and suddenly like taking a 40% hit to their stock price, which they didn't gain people. They just lost, I think they lost 250,000 subscribers.
Something like that, yeah.
And they have like 19 million. Like, it's a hit, but it's not a huge hit. And there had to be some depreciation because COVID's quote-unquote, it's not, but quote-unquote over.
Yeah.
Yeah, people were just not going, like, I go in online communities that were stupid busy last year, and they're not like ghost towns, but they're nowhere near as active now because people are out fucking side. Like, you were gonna lose subscribers, guys. You can't keep growing.
They went outside and touched some grass.
Yeah. So, and that suddenly their stock price goes down 40%, which I'm like, was it really the subscribers, or did you guys just realize Netflix was like an illusion? They were the bubble.
Well, and plus, as you were saying before too, Netflix, I don't understand how Netflix can ever be profitable just off of subscriptions.
Yeah.
Like Hulu, Disney, etc., all have advertising revenue coming in.
Yeah, or something.
Something.
Disney has a whole massive multiplex of whatever but fucking shit is there. And Hulu does ads to at least support them, and they're owned by Disney. So
I was about to say,
they're fine.
They're all, that's why you can buy.
Yeah.
What is it? You can buy
ESPN.
Disney Plus, ESPN Plus, and Hulu for like $15 a month.
Yeah, it's something like that.
And you get all 3 of them.
Yeah.
And I think for $5 more, you can get Apple TV with that, which is 4 streaming services.
Yeah.
Which is cheaper still than Netflix, which has, like, because we were talking about this before the podcast. I can't remember, the only thing I've watched on Netflix recently is Community.
Yeah.
Because there's nothing else that I want to watch, and I forgot Stranger Things came out. I need to watch that.
Like, I'm trying to remember. I know I watched something on Netflix a month or so ago. I think it was some movie they put out that they had that was
Yeah.
But they had it. And now I'm like, when was the last time I actually wrote an article for the site that wasn't about Netflix, that wasn't Stranger Things? And I can't remember anything, which says a big issue that Netflix has right there. None of their crap is memorable. They canceled all their memorable crap.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I'm, like I said, still mad about Glow.
Oh, I know. It's like they're the new Fox.
Yeah.
You don't want to watch Fox because you can't trust that the genre show you're going to watch, Being Human or Firefly or fucking Dollhouse or
the one that really hurts, Sarah Connor
Chronicles.
Yep.
And I mean, credit to Fox. I know we're off topic. Credit for Fox. They learned their lesson from Firefly and tried to foster Sarah Connor, but the ratings weren't there.
Yeah.
But You knew you were going to cancel it. Don't end it on a cliffhanger.
Yeah. Just give me a half more season, please.
A mini series or even just a movie to wrap that up. Do a comic book. Give us something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Stupid.
Yeah. So, but Netflix is not in a good place. And now what I was going to say was they made an announcement that the next thing they're going to do is do big budget movies. They're going to stop doing a lot of small stuff and they want to do big budget movies instead that will somehow make them compete with Disney, which, first of all, I've seen the big budget movies they're doing, like Red Notice. They're awful.
The Irishman?
Yeah.
I love Martin Scorsese. You know that.
Uh-huh.
I like Robert De Niro.
Yeah.
That movie I couldn't sit through more than half hour. And it's not because I didn't understand what was going on. It was just droll.
6 Underground?
Oh.
That was terrible. Michael Bay being Michael Bay, and apparently he also wrote the script, and it was awful.
Yeah.
Like, oh my God. Like, everything they have that they say, we spent X million dollars to make this movie, and you watch it and you go, really?
Can I have some of that money? I can make a better movie.
It's very pretty, but your story is no better than what The Asylum could put together. Like,
right?
Like Red Notice with Ryan Reynolds and Gal Gadot and The Rock felt like an Asylum movie with a $150 million budget.
I was really disappointed by that movie.
Yes, it's getting a sequel because it was a huge hit. For who? This was a piece of shit.
Yeah, So I think I figured out the last thing I saw that was original content on Netflix, and it was that Nicolas Cage History of Cursing documentary, which was actually pretty good.
Yeah,
but
just so painful.
It's like the CW of streaming services now.
Which. So, I mean, this raises the problem of the fact that when Netflix came out, and we can move into the next part of the discussion then. When Netflix came out, they had a lot of interesting shows that I wanted to see. I mean, they started with, House of Cards, which at that time, while there were rumors about Kevin Spacey that most of us didn't realize were out there, at a certain point, Kevin Spacey became Slimeball and he got fired from the show. But at the very start, House of Cards was interesting before it went off the rails. I mean, Mindhunter came out a little while later.
That was a really good one, too.
There's a couple of other shows they had out that were really good, all around the same time.
Ozark, I think, came out a little after Mindhunter.
Yeah, there's a couple others. Like, I'm trying to remember there's like 2 or 3 shows that came out right when Netflix started doing original streaming content, and the only one I can remember at this point is House of Cards.
Yeah,
but
I can't remember what else came out.
Orange is the New Black was another one, which I didn't really get into, but I know people liked.
I liked it for the first few seasons, but it just...
devolved.
It devolved into just like, okay.
Yeah, which I think is part of the problem is like Netflix got a good show and they kept it around, but then they kept it around too long, so it's almost like they learned the opposite lesson they should have, which is like, oh, this thing went on too long, let's cancel it before that happens, which you still had a fan base, though. Like, people were still paying for this. But, I mean, when you compare Netflix of a while ago with Glow and House of Cards and all these other shows that people actually cared about, and you compare it to now, they have, again, The Witcher and Stranger Things. And, like, when you think about what else do they have? Well, Ozark got canceled. Schitt's Creek, which was over, but was still popular for them.
Schitt's Creek, I think, wasn't that off something
else?
Well,
it's a Canadian show, but Netflix had the exclusive rights to it here, and then they lost that to Hulu.
Okay.
Like, everything that you can think of that was quote-unquote Netflix, or that they slapped their logo on, or anything, like, the ones that actually people cared about no longer exist, and they don't really have much to take over.
They have that Castlevania anime still.
That's about it, which they're making more of, and I'm okay with that, but when you're... Okay, so
was
3
Voltron
shows.
on?
Voltron didn't get a replacement. Yeah. I mean, it ended. And they didn't do what I would have expected, which was Vehicle Voltron or Samurai Voltron or something, or some distant continuation. Yeah,
their animated shows I think have a little bit more of a following because of
until they gutted it.
Coco Melon.
Yeah,
which if anyone has kids, you can probably taste the vomit in my mouth. She-Ra.
Yeah, which they ended, and then they lost the She-Ra license to Amazon.
Yep.
Yeah, like, okay, so He-Man was watchable last season, but they haven't said anything about whether or not they're even doing a second season of it.
I haven't heard anything either.
No.
I was pleasantly surprised by that, though.
Yeah, the Kevin Smith one. I didn't watch the kid-friendly one.
No, I didn't either.
No.
I watched that enough in the 80s. In early 90s. We don't need to revisit that again.
The loincloths.
He-Man.
Fairly revisited, I'm sorry.
That's literally the only music in the whole show. Just bum 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 He-Man. Bum 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 He-Man. Bum 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 bum.
Well, I hope this is
He-Man.
now stuck in everyone's heads. I'm just saying. But no, like, what does Netflix have that's interesting right now? They have, okay, so
Studio.
I was gonna say they can't survive on Stranger Things alone because Stranger Things is costing what I think reported upwards of $100 million an episode right now.
Yeah, which is a lot.
Yeah, well, I mean that was 9 episodes this season, 2 of which are still getting produced and put out, which probably raises how much they cost even more. And some of them were beyond feature length, so at least $100 million a pop. Stranger Things this season alone had to cost them over $1 billion. Which
I think that's fair. Yeah.
Yeah, it's 9 episodes, $900 million, but some of them are probably longer, cost more, which makes you think, okay, don't get me wrong, it's a good-looking show. I don't think it's $1 billion of good-looking show.
I haven't seen the new season.
I know, but even like season 3, you can look at like the special effects are on par with season 3.
Okay.
So
they're okay.
They're okay. It's not $1 billion worth. It's not one where you're sitting there going, all of this was on screen. Like, you spent $1 billion, but man, that show looked like $1 billion.
Yeah.
I don't know where the budget's going on that, for one. And 2, how many subscribers do you have to make $1 billion off that? They put all of them out at once. Like, it's not like with Disney Plus, where they're releasing the episodes one a week.
Yeah.
They dump it all out. Now, they're dumping the last 2 episodes later this year, so they'll get 2 BOP subscriptions. But
this is the last season for Stranger Things, too, isn't it?
I think they just announced they're doing a 5th.
Okay.
So they might be able to drag out some subscriptions for a while. But let's just say people subscribe to Netflix for that month, and we're even kind, and everyone decides to do the UHD, okay? For them to get $1 billion off of that in the month means they have to have, God, what, 500,000 subscribers? No, 50,000.
That's just a break even. Yeah, I can't do math in my head.
Well, 500.
You can say 16 people. I'm
no,
like, right.
$1 billion. I'm doing the wrong math. So we're looking at 50 million subscribers, which they don't have.
Yeah.
They have 19 million. So their thought process is...
So they would need to do 19 million subscribers consistently for about 3 years before they break even?
Yeah, because you got to think, it's not just the cost of the show itself, but it's also residuals to the actors, residuals to the creators to keep the show around, even though there's probably some license that's eventually going to revert to them. There's all the maintenance behind the scenes. There's everything else that goes into it. That's an expensive show. Like, when you talk about a movie... Whatever the projected budget is, you have to double that, and that's how much a show has to, or a movie has to make to actually make back it. Now, Netflix doesn't have to share its costs with, or its profits with movie theaters, but even still, there's advertising and everything else that goes into that. Yeah, like 19 million consistently for a year to 2 years, which most people don't do.
Nope.
And then you got to factor on all the other stuff they're making, plus The Witcher and everything else. This is a company that's going in the hole.
I have a weird feeling that they're either going to join with something like Apple TV or be acquired by Google, because Google is the only tech company that I can think of that doesn't have a good streaming service.
So let's talk about from that perspective. And I know from experience, having worked from a tech company that will not be named, that you saw this firsthand. When a company is dying, is in the prospect of selling themselves off, they will cut things, mostly staff.
Yep.
They will then try and produce a few big things that make it look like they're a mover and shaker.
Yep.
So they can goose their profits.
Yep.
And then they'll sell themselves.
Yep.
And what has Netflix done? Cut staff.
Yep.
They've cut shows, a lot of shows. Mm-hmm. They've made an announcement they're only going to focus on big budget things. They've made a deal to actually show some of those big budget things in movie theaters now, so they can goose their profits.
Yeah, and part of me wonders too, from like a business management perspective, is if they're intentionally getting all this bad PR to help kind of cut costs, because they had that email leak that came out that said, if you don't like our content, quit.
Yeah.
Specifically about trans rights. So people have been quitting. They haven't, as far as I've seen, been backfilling those positions. And
you don't hear about it.
And if people quit, they don't get severance packages.
Yep.
So I wonder if...
It does seem engineered. Like, maybe not the bad press itself, but everything that comes afterwards.
Yes.
It's like, a convenient excuse to downsize the company to make it more profitable when they sell it.
Well, because so they can say it's like, well, we're doing this, like we had to cut these shows, not because we're selling, but because we're losing money in subscribers. Why don't we have new content? Because we don't have the subscribers to pay for it, and they're gonna
Catch-22.
It's a catch-22 for sure, but I feel like the shareholders are still probably getting their same value in it.
Yeah.
So because where's that $40,000 going to go when you cut someone's job?
Yeah.
Not to a new person, to the shareholders.
Like, I think them having their stock drop 40% was a shock. They didn't expect it to be that bad.
Whoops, you did this during an inflation period.
Yeah, that was some of the bubble that was around their stock that eventually popped. But I do think that now that it's happened, they can reevaluate their stock and be like, either we short further on our own stock, or we goose the stock to come up so that we can sell it quick when it's time and just drop the company on someone else.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. It seems like the likely thing.
Yeah, because if they were smart, they would be bought out, or they would sell themselves to a larger company.
Yeah.
Such as Amazon, or maybe not Amazon, but Google I could see being a realistic.
I can see Google. I can see Apple.
Apple, Sony, maybe.
Yeah. One of them that picks them up to, like, just probably not for the service itself. They might keep the name around and make it like Netflix plus Apple or something, and then merge. But it's mostly so they have the properties.
Yeah. So
the few winning properties.
Yeah. And like just be a subsidiary of something else. And
like, I mean, I would like even Amazon. I could see being interested in picking up Netflix at least for The Witcher.
The Witcher, because right now their biggest IP, I think, would be The Witcher.
Yeah. Like, well, everyone wants a fantasy show. And, I mean, they have a fantasy show on Amazon, which is Wheel of Time.
Yeah,
but Wheel of Time,
wretched.
It felt like a poor clone of The Witcher.
Yeah.
Like, they looked at The Witcher and went, we can do this, and tried.
But they do have The Ring of Power coming out this September, which...
I'm sorry, you go ahead.
Well, it's been getting good reviews from early release.
Previews?
Yeah.
I'm telling you, of all the fantasy shows that have come out since The Witcher, the only one that I've actually been like, ooh, this actually looks interesting, and it's really weird to say, is Willow.
No joke.
Yeah.
Josette and I watched the trailer for that because we were looking at stuff coming out, and I was like, Willow? I was like, that already came out.
Yeah.
But no, it's the sequel.
It's a sequel miniseries.
And it looks amazing.
It does. Like, the production values are good. They got the right level of action going in what we've seen so far. You just get, like, Warwick Davis's, like, narration going over it, and I was like, I didn't even like the movie. I'm like, I'm getting chills here. This is
I loved Willow. Good. But I was also, I think it was my age.
Yeah.
Because you're a little older.
It came out when I was mid-teens, and I'm like, I don't care about this. What's Willow? Whatever.
Yeah, I was a little younger.
George Lucas making a fantasy. Wee. But no, this one actually looks like, I'm like, oh my god, when did Willow get good?
It was always good, Mike. Yeah, that did give me chills, though.
Yeah, so I mean, it's like, I understand what the people are going for. Disney wouldn't have an interest in Netflix because the properties that are worth money are too mature for them.
Yeah.
Stranger Things and Witcher do not blend with what they're trying to do.
No.
Like, they had a hard enough time putting the Netflix Marvel shows on Disney Plus. No, they're
Disney is out unless they made a separate, unless they made that their adult, quote unquote, adult content.
And they're not going to buy it just to dump all that crap on Hulu because no one cares that much about Hulu. I like Hulu. I keep Hulu around.
Yeah.
But no one cares that much about Hulu.
Do they even do original programming on Hulu anymore?
They do. They still do the occasional show. It's not. They're not big the way it is. Like, the last one I watched that was actually interesting was the Catherine the Great show.
That was actually kind of cool. I watched the first couple episodes.
There's decent stuff on there. They're not a must-watch for me. Mostly I go on there and I'm, like, flipping through and I'm like, oh, look at this old movie. I think I watched The Accountant on there recently.
Good choice. Matt Damon?
No, Ben Affleck.
Ben Affleck.
The Ben Affleck one. You're thinking The Informant.
Yeah, that's right. I was like,
no, it's the Ben Affleck actioner where he's an autistic man, which honestly kind of handles the autism okay. Doesn't entirely, but it's a better depiction than I've seen of a lot.
Yeah,
but like
usually you get something like Abed from Community.
Yeah, but then let's get to tie it back in. 6 years ago, I would have expected The Accountant to be on Netflix because it's that kind of mid-tier, just good enough that you feel like you're getting your money's worth. Now Netflix has like low-tier asylum bullshit and the stuff that they make, which sometimes feels like low-tier Asylum bullshit.
Yeah.
Or CW production value.
I just kind of realized that as you were talking, they kind of went full circle, and I feel like this is kind of the same Netflix that came out when it first came out, where it was just a novelty almost, but
yeah.
Like,
yeah, well, the Netflix that first appeared was like low-tier subscription stuff, shows people didn't want to stream or didn't realize they needed to do that. So they had like Seinfeld and Friends and so forth because no one else was streaming at the time. And then they still had their disc service. And then the streaming took off and caught everyone else by surprise. And Netflix had like 8 years there where they were basically the only game in town.
Yeah.
They're not now, but they don't know how to operate in a competitive marketplace.
Yeah.
So...
No.
They
got spoiled.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they're gonna. I would not be surprised if within the decade they get snatched up by Amazon or Apple or Google, and their supplies get added to some streaming service or another.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I bet you their infrastructure is about the only thing that's worth buying at this point.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
By the time that they'd be able to sell Witcher, it'd probably be done.
Yeah, because they have enough other Witcher shows they're doing that as long as they don't oversaturate, which they probably will.
Yeah.
They have a property there. They have you're right. They have the infrastructure and the contracts that they've negotiated with other internet providers.
Mm-hmm.
They have the company itself, which some of the stuff in there probably is worthwhile, and then they have their properties.
Yeah.
I mean, they might liquidate and sell the entire thing, or they might break up into pieces and sell off their bits and pieces. But some of those things are valuable to another corporation.
Yeah. I wonder if they will... Because if I was Netflix, and if someone from Netflix was listening, what I would do, since they want to pivot to big-budget movies, I know that they, in the past, have said, movies, we're just going to stream movies. You can do that, but I think to make money, they'll have to have a larger audience and actually put stuff into theaters.
Like the deal they negotiated, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think that would be the only way forward for them.
Well, and then they're going to have to do what Disney and HBO do at this point, which is like a 45-day window. Yep. Yeah, which is antithetical to it all.
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, no, I just don't know. Netflix is not the value proposition it once was.
No, Disney came in and took a 12 gauge and just destroyed them.
I mean, as much as I like the idea of just getting a show all at once and just being able to watch it, because I really just want to stream, and I hate the fact that I have to wait a week to get my next episode of like Obi-Wan or
Moon Knight,
Hawkeye or whatever. It's like
that's why I just wait.
Yeah,
like it's especially because a lot of the Disney stuff, specifically the Marvel stuff, has huge cliffhangers at the end of each episode.
Serialized, very serialized.
And I'm like, no, I can't do this anymore. My brain won't let me do it.
Yeah. Speaking of shows though that I actually can tolerate watching one at a time though, Paramount Plus, Strange New Worlds from Star Trek.
So good. So good.
God.
I'm mad that people are sleeping on All Access or whatever it's called. What's it called now? Paramount Plus.
Paramount Plus, but it's still All Access. It's Paramount All Access, whatever you want to call it. Yeah, no, it's good. I only watch it for Star Trek. I tried to watch the Halo show, and that was ass.
Oh, no, that was not good.
And I don't watch South Park, because I watched the first season, and then didn't watch anything since, and I'm like, the show now doesn't resemble first season at all.
No, and it's weird because they still have continuity.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, I know that. Oh, yeah, it's crazy. These kids have only moved up one grade in 25 fucking years, but...
Yeah, but there's still continuity.
So do we want to watch Party Community? You were talking about it, and that's apparently the only thing that's on Netflix that we've both watched.
Watch Party. Dun, 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 dun.
I was going to do Stranger Things Season 4 Part 1, but you didn't see it, so...
I forgot that it existed.
Because you forget Netflix exists.
Yes.
Yeah, so... But Community is there.
Community is there. It's my new background show right now.
I mean, I know that we did a Community podcast, but damn it, that show's good.
I know.
It holds up.
It does.
Yeah.
For the most part, yeah.
In comparison to the other shows that I've seen on Netflix that I've tried to watch through, oh my god, 30 Rock doesn't hold up.
No, I try to watch 30 Rock too. I think we talked about that last...
Yeah. We mentioned, I think we talked about off mic. Yeah. Yeah, that one, that's a show that I really wanted to like watching again, and I couldn't make it past the season.
It was too cringy. I don't remember it being that cringy when we first watched it.
Really painful to watch. But Community, even the later seasons that aren't as good, still holds up.
Yeah.
It's watchable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think it's because, I know that people like to say woke politics, but I think Community was maybe at the forefront of that, where it was progressive. It was way progressive.
It's very progressive without it never punches down, I think is the important thing. That's exactly what I was trying to say. Yeah, I had a conversation with someone that was talking about we lost both, quote unquote, we lost. I didn't lose him. But Gilbert Gottfried and Norm Macdonald.
Oh,
and he's like, these are two very similar comedians, but like one of them was more liked than the other. I was like, that's because only one of them actually punched down. Yeah. Gilbert Gottfried made some really horrendous jokes, but he never punched down while he did it. It was always like just to get an audience reaction, but never at the expense of someone. Norm Macdonald, with his conservative podcast that he was doing, couldn't help but occasionally punch down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which it was kind of surprising me that he was as conservative as he was.
Very conservative. It didn't come out until late in life when I think he was struggling to do any other comedy, so he went with the conservative comedy and didn't work for me.
Yeah, but we also lost Bob Saget too, which was...
He was a weird comedian.
He was weird. Funny though.
He was. But that's the thing about 30 Rock in comparison to Community is 30 Rock, like, oh my God, it doesn't have characters. It has character tics.
Yeah.
Things that the characters do, but the characters themselves are just irritating, and they are very often the butt of the joke, or they're making someone else the butt of the joke. Tracy Morgan's character, so very often. Yeah, it's a punch down kind of show.
Yeah.
So, but Community doesn't do that. Like, its characters are well developed, but the comedy always comes at either the odd things going on around them, or just from the interactions of the characters themselves.
Well, and it's smart too, because it's more lifelike, because every character has their good qualities and bad qualities, and there's constant growth between the group
except for maybe Pierce.
He had his moments a couple of times, but I honestly wholeheartily believe that Pierce's character was just Chevy Chase being Chevy Chase.
Oh, it was. Dan Harmon said specifically that they'd hang out after the show on certain days, and Chevy Chase would just be like, I think this about Pierce, and he would just list stuff off, and he'd say Chevy Chase-isms and just talk about himself, and then Dan Harmon would write it all down and then put it in the show.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Chevy Chase, I think, was the weakest link, but Chevy Chase.
He was hired to be Chevy Chase and to add a name to it, and after the first season, they didn't need the name anymore. Would have been better with someone else in the role.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
Literally anyone else.
Gilbert Gottfried.
I love Gilbert Gottfried.
That would have been a very weird show with Gilbert Gottfried as Pierce.
Well, they did replace his character with
Mike Ehrmantraut from Breaking Bad.
Yeah.
Yeah, another crotchety old guy.
Yeah.
I know that's not the actor's name, but that's who he is.
I was trying to remember his name. No. Man, was it?
It's weird that I can remember Mike Ehrmantraut, though.
Yeah.
That's...
Oh, man.
But yeah, no, they did replace, quote unquote, replace Pierce with
and then after
crotchety old guy.
After that crotchety old guy, Keith David.
Yeah, they always had a crotchety old guy.
Which I kind of wish Keith David would have been in it. Like, I love Keith David already, but his crotchety old man was perfect.
He was very funny. I kind of wish that we'd gotten a 7th season or that long-promised movie with Keith David in it, because it was very funny.
Because I think that was only on the Yahoo one, wasn't it?
Yahoo Screens was season 6. Yeah,
that was only Keith David season.
Yeah, which isn't well loved, but I thought it was funny.
There were a couple. One of my favorite Community episodes is that Karate Kid episode off of the season 6, I think.
Such a weird episode.
It's so weird.
I gotta say, my favorite is the Meow Meow Beans.
Oh,
just because
was that season 6 too?
No, that was season 5, I think. But it's the Meow Meow Beans that for some reason becomes a Zardoz parody. Which, like, there's probably 3 people in the audience that saw that episode. It was like, Zardoz, and everyone's like, what?
Yeah. What is Meow Meow Beans?
Meow Meow Beans. Meow Meow. So weird.
I really do like that episode too.
Anyway, go watch Community. That's what we're saying.
If you haven't yet.
Don't watch 30 Rock. It doesn't hold up. Go watch Community instead.
No.
Yeah. And with that, I do believe we have wrapped up this podcast, because we're at 30 minutes now, and people don't want to hear us blather on forever during a week.
No.
Our one listener.
I hope you enjoyed your morning commute, one listener.
This has been Not So Live from Asteroid G. I'm Mike Finkelstein, sadly only a level 2 in Meow Meow Beans.
I'm Josh Schaefer, level 3 Meow Meow Beans.
Oh, man, you went right. Yeah. And we will see you next time.